Moreover, the media has remained a strategic tool in the enthronement of social values and pursuit of self and societal aspirations around the world through credible use and dissemination of verifiable and authentic news items and other unquestionable materials. Now, with the emergence of the social media platforms, complacencies and misplacement of public relations priority and other considerations, particularly security, which has become a fragile instrument for propagating untrue, unverified and inappropriate materials to the public. This has a huge impact in the hands of social media influencers, sometimes with negative consequences on lives and property, while amplifying avoidable apprehension across the country. Today, the conventional media is becoming somehow uninteresting, while the social media is getting more popular and weaponized in the hands of an active population within the ages of 16 to 55 years. This perhaps may have huge consequences on security and the operatives' ability to carry out their duties effectively, as the information disseminated could be harmful or useful depending on its content, as the media is a critical player in the arena of national security. Today on the program, we focus on the real merits and demerits of these media platforms and national security. I am Omini Odan. Welcome to the program. Before we go into the discussion proper, let's take a listen to this background report put together by Adebola Brookston Sunday.
The security of every nation, no doubt, is vital for the survival and growth of its political, social, and economic system. As a source of information for any society regarding any issue, people rely and even trust what is presented to them by the media. As the fourth estate and watchdog of their society, it plays a crucial role in national development. The media observe events in the society, select specific ones, and present or interpret them the way they want the audience to understand them.
One of the great worries should be, for us, what harm is done to public information. I think that the time may come, if nothing is done, when nothing will be believed or nothing will be believable.
In performing this function, false and wrong information dissemination have seen the world marked by great turmoil, fears, uncertainties, and ever-changing nature of relationship among states, as well as intrastate conflicts.
Instead of us to lead calm and rational discourse on the existential challenges we face with a view to promoting actionable solutions, we have succumbed to hysteria and the next exciting clickbait headline.
In reporting the security sector and performing the watchdog function, journalists sometimes encounter obstacles and challenges such as restriction of access to information despite the Freedom of Information Act in the country.
I'm supposed to be a custodian of information. Anybody coming from the public, when they see me as a journalist, they believe I should have first-hand information. They believe I should know at least something about everything. But when I'm being limited, then how do I provide the information?
The National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, is the organization saddled with the responsibility of monitoring media activities for harmful emission, interference, and illegal broadcasting. The advent of the social media in the past decade, however, has revolutionized communication, overshadowing the traditional ways of communication, which has become a tool in the hand of those that can be regarded as enemies of the states.
The internet becomes ever more accessible with cheap smartphones and free data. And as free apps can mimic people's mouths, voices and facial expressions becoming more sophisticated and freely available, the challenge will grow.
The government, in conjunction with media practitioners, needs to evolve and adopt strategies that strengthen and safeguard the nation online and offline platforms in line with the nation's core values and security without trampling on individual liberty and privacy. Adebola Brookston Sunday.
Media and national security, the focus tonight, and a background report put together by Debola Brooks-Linson decided to turn for the take off the program. At some point, our phone line will be open, and if we're told to you, please, in making your contributions, raising your concerns, and asking your questions, turn down the volume of your television set to avoid the hallback. And please go straight to the point, no need to remark roll. Well, I'm being joined tonight in the studio in Abuja, all guests here tonight, beginning with Honorable Razak Nandas, House Committee Chairman on Army. He was also House Committee Chairman on Media. Good to have you on the program tonight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Franca Anyeton, Director of Broadcast Monitoring, National Broadcasting Commission, NBC. Welcome to the program.
Glad to be here.
And for information, the Honorable here, Nandas, is in the 8th National Assembly. I beg your pardon. Welcome once again.
9th. I was in the 8th too, and then in the 9th
National Assembly. Yes, you're welcome. Bayo Atoyebi, former Executive Secretary, Nigerian Press Council. Good to see you on the program tonight. The President, Nigeria Union of Journalists, Chris Izuguzo, is also on the program tonight. Izuguzo, good to see you on the program.
It's my pleasure.
I think from the tone and issue for discourse tonight, let me begin with Bayo Atoyebi, veteran, and indeed he has seen it all in the practice of the profession. The media is huge, and we owe the society a social responsibility. And given the issue at stake, what would be your opening comment regarding your perspective and observation so far regarding media and national security?
Very much. When you talk about media, the essence of media is basically to hold those in governance accountable to the people. And in so doing, the media, through its role of surveillance of the environment, looking around what is happening in the nation, purveying information for the governed and those in government, they are able to provide the information profile in the society. Through that, everybody is aware of goings-on. But that notwithstanding, the media has the specific role, just not only of just surveilling the environment, but having brought everyone in accordance and together with the latest information around, it also holds them, all of them, accountable for it. But related to security, security is the safety of everybody in an entity. In the context of a nation, any threat to peaceful coexistence internally within a nation or externally coming from external aggression that could threaten the peaceful coexistence and the peace and the well-being of a people is seen as a threat to national security. Conversely, in spite of the fact that there are persons who work for the media whose specific role is to ensure that members of the public are adequately informed. When they are adequately informed, they will be able to make informed decisions about their leaders and about goings-on in society. In the like manner, persons in the security also owe a responsibility to protect everybody, including those of them who work within the mass media. But ironically, sometimes, like it is often said, when you hear a situation of alarm and you see people running away from that emergency situation, you will find two kinds of people running towards it. You will find the journalists going there to seek information. You will see the security going there to seek intelligence. They all do so in the service of society. So both the media and the security are in the service of the nation. They all work for the well-being and the protection of society.
Okay, still with you, Bayo. I'm not done with you yet. Does that mean, therefore, linking with the social responsibility of the media to society, Nigeria is a sovereign entity, for instance. So it means that no matter what the media sees, not minding national interest, we must push it out?
No. What is national interest? National interest is anything of substantial interest that could affect the well-being of the people in a nation. That is a national interest. There is also a concomitant national security or security interest. Security interest is also anything that will tamper with the well-being, the security, the peaceful coexistence of persons within that society. So you see, it is similar. While the media is concerned about informing the society, the security is also concerned about having a society that is secured and protected for everybody. If, however, in the process of the media carrying out their duty, it becomes a threat to security, then you have an instance whereby persons in the media and persons in the security will have their lines of responsibility crossing. And sometimes some shoulders have been ruffled, sometimes some skirmishes have occurred. But ironically, the two of them worked to serve the public. And that is why sometimes it is often said that those are the two mad people. They go towards crisis to serve the public, but ironically, most often than not, they always find themselves in conflicting terms. That is to say that what the media man might see as exigency for information, sometimes the security man might see as a threat to peaceful coexistence. And unless the two of them are able to rationalize and observe and identify that they are working for a common purpose, there will always be a point of disagreement and periods of conflict.
Thank you so much, Bayo, for your opening thoughts. Let's go to Chris. Chris, you hold the sledgehammer, and most of the time, when it happens, everybody runs to you. You are the president, Nigeria Union of Journalists, and one would rightly say you are the #1 journalist in the country. And journalism universally thrives on ethics, and by the short definition I have here, I will not want to paraphrase, but let me quote it copiously. It says, good journalism costs a lot of money, yet only good journalism can ensure the possibility of a good society, an accountable democracy, and a transparent government. You hold a wheel stick: ethics, national interests, information management, media, and national security. What's your opening thoughts?
Thanks once again for having me this evening. Our very senior colleague, Bayo has been able to capture this from his own perspective, which also substantially represents the perspective of some of us and most of us in the media. Media has a responsibility of informing and, of course, educating the people, keeping the people abreast with developments in the country. He made reference to Section 22 of the Constitution, which empowers the media with the responsibility of holding government to account, or holding government accountable, as the case may be. Well, he's been able to also capture it from the security perspective. I agree with him in totality. One thing that we must know is that both the media and the security chieftains, we are all having the same kind of objective. Like he gave us an analogy, in a situation where there is a crisis, you see people running away from crisis, but the same two people, the security men and the media workers, the journalists, run towards the crisis. What are they going there to do? If everybody runs away, then nobody informs the public of the situation that pervades that environment. Therefore, it is very, very important that at all times the media and the security chieftains must work together, because oftentimes the major challenge that we have is the inability, or do I say failure, of the security leaders or security operatives, security agencies. They have refused to take the media or journalists into confidence. And when this happens, you allow or expose the journalists to all forms of speculations. When you alienate, when you try to remove the journalists, begin to see them as if they are opponents in the struggle, then you are going to create a problem, you know. But when you take them into confidence, the journalists must be fully informed of developments in the country, even within the security system, the security network, within the security architecture. The journalists should be fully aware, like the tape you played at the beginning of this program. Somebody said, the public expects the journalists to know everything or a little of everything, no matter how difficult it is. The society looks up to that journalist. But a situation where those that are supposed to fully inform the journalists have themselves decided to alienate the journalists, it becomes a problem. So when you're talking about media and national security, a journalist that is not informed or a media professional that is not informed cannot properly discharge that responsibility reposed in him. And how are you going to get him informed? Yes, there should be periodic security briefings. The situation, you must have to get journalists, sit them down, look at the reality, because they are equally stakeholders in the Nigerian project. You know, if you want to build a sane environment, if you want to build a safe environment, if you want to build a secured environment, and you refuse to take the journalist into account, take him into confidence, it will be difficult for you to achieve that. So they must have to work hand in glove with the security chieftains so that they understand the scenario, the situation in the country. That way, they will be able to sieve. They will be able to engage in self-censorship, because they would come to that understanding that if they communicate panic or tension or fear in the land, and the entire system is enveloped by anarchy, the journalist will not be immune. He would also be part of the tension. He would also be part of the anarchy. He would also be part of the fear that had been entrenched in the system. Therefore, he would be able to censor himself. Well, this one is going to cause trouble in the system. You'll be able to manage it, much as you have that responsibility of informing the people. But if you are going to inform them and cause crisis, then you must have to retrace your steps. You know, so but what is most important here is that those involved in security must see the journalist or the media professional as partner or partners in progress. But if you see them as aliens, see them as enemies of state, then you are harming the system without knowing it.
Thank you so much. Well, Honorable, let me come to you before I take on Franca from MBC. Given the opening thoughts by Bayo, former Executive Secretary of the National Press Council and the President Nigerian of Journalists, what is your own impressions regarding media performance tied to the issue of discussed national security?
Thank you for this great opportunity. I want to align myself with the two previous speakers, and I will start from the premise that Section 22 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, and in particular Chapter 2, states clearly that media should hold government accountable so that Nigerian citizens will have value for good governance. And in the pursuit of this good governance, the Nigerian media or journalists go out to ensure that whatever is shredded in secrecy that is going to affect the general population, they will do their best to see that they unravel those secrecy. And it is allowed to do that, but it should be done within the ethics of the profession. Okay. As a journalist, you're expected to know that there is an ethics. You do accurate reporting, factual reporting, there must be balanced reporting. So once you get some stories, you don't do a one-sided story. You do a story with some level of balance, so that whoever is reading, they know that there is objectivity in the entire report, there is fact in the report, and there is balance. Once that is done, the average reader knows that when you put it down, people can only see it for themselves. They know that this is a good reporting. And again, Section 39 of the Constitution allows the Nigerian citizen to be able to establish his own medium so that they can disseminate information. So that's why you find private individuals establishing media houses, which is part of their right to do so. So these days, because there are a lot of media houses everywhere, you see sometimes we also have a challenge of how it is reports are being carried on. And when you go back to the situation of the security, let me give you an example of the armed forces. Under the section 217, the president is allowed to handle the operational use of the armed forces. He decides at which point, look, during internal security crisis, at which point will I decide to say, okay, the armed forces should go and help the police and what have you. Of course, sometimes it's supposed to be regulated by the National Assembly. But again, there's a little conflict here. Conflict in the sense that when the average journalist wants to unravel the secrecy, the security is working hard to also put certain stories that must not be close to a journalist because for national interest. Sometimes when you allow the media to report everything, and for example, there is a strategy of how to handle bandits, how to handle terrorists, and how to go about an operation that is going to take place in the next 2 hours, in the next 1 week. If you are to report, you're not supposed to unravel what they are supposed to do. It could affect also the strategy of the security forces. And that is why security men are always being cautious to say, look, we cannot give you all the information. The informations are restricted in court. However, that is expected for us to have a good working relationship. It is true that the journalists should be allowed to cover. I will not be going. The ones today, the journalists are on strike and everybody, I think nobody can move an inch because you don't know what is happening next door. But again, let us operate within the bounds of the law. If you see international media organizations, they will tell you so many stories about Nigeria. They hardly can say the same stories about their own country. That is very important. So, but people will tell you that, look, we have, imagine, look at this big, powerful media houses. Yesterday they reported on this matter. They are allowed to say things like that. Yes, they should say it, but they should also have opportunity to say the facts and balance the story. In Nigeria, our media is very vibrant. Our journalists are so vibrant. They played a lot of role to enthrone this democracy that some of us are really enjoying today. But again, I am happy that the Nigerian Union of Journalists president is on board. And there's also a challenge. We also have fake journalists. And you have to also shift them out to find out that sometimes they may be giving the real journalists a bad name. So we have to find a way to say, look, these people should not, because if you call for a press conference now, you can hardly, you see close to over 200 people coming. But you can imagine when the thing comes out, you will be sure how many of them are being published and how many of them published according to rules. So I think...
What do they come to the specifics regarding who qualifies to practice or not?
Okay.
I believe the NGO president will guide us appropriately. Okay. But just to land, what is your own impression so far, given the tough you pray for?
Yes, personally, I think they are not doing badly. But I think we must work to the bounds of the law. What I'm saying, that if you allow, even we as human beings, our conduct are being regulated by religion. The books, the Holy Book, if you allow us as human beings to just operate anyhow, without any court, that could be a problem. And that's why I say that it's ethics. But I think Nigerian media is not doing badly. They are doing good. But at least with level of moderation, at least we will require that.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Franca. Franca, well, I just said I shall allow you be the last in the opening thoughts. Naturally, when we have NBC, one thing comes, wielding the stick, mostly within the broadcast environment. But within the ambit of what we are discussing, what's the impression of the NBC regarding the Nigerian media?
The Nigerian...
We're talking about holistic, not just the broadcast media now.
Yeah, the Nigerian media is doing great. It's doing very vibrant. But a lot is expected of them. The background has been laid by the veteran, Mr. Atoyebi, the president of Nigerian Union of Journalists, and my honorable here. So it's quite an easy job for me now, because we all seem to agree that the underlining words there, that media is charged with the business of surveillance and reporting what they see in society. Security is also some level of bound with, charged with the duty of of surveillance and also keeping us safe and all that. But where do we meet? Where is the drawing line, or where do we meet? Where do we join forces to make sure that everything goes well? Another key overriding word there is national interest. National interest, and Mr. Toyebi was trying to underscore what we meant by national interest. I think that whatever it is, whatever augurs for the good of everybody is what is national interest. Whatever helps to ennoble us as a people, whatever helps to build our society, whatever helps to protect us from chaos, from dwindling into chaos. So if the role of the journalist is to bring information to the fore, if the role of the media is to bring information to the fore, we as regulators, we say, when you bring this information to fore, sometimes you stop to ask yourself, what is the essence of this information that I am bringing to the fore? Is it for public good? Will it help to quell the problem, solve the problem? Am I working in tandem with the intention of security, or intention of state, or intention of the people? Or will this degenerate the problem? If, like the Honorable said, if excessive information in particular areas or in particular issues is going to cause chaos, like coloration, ethnic coloration, religious connotation, it's going to bring, polarize the society in your bid to bring information to the fore, then we begin to ask ourselves, is it necessary? Is that information necessary? Even in the face of, in the face of principles of accuracy and all that, bringing truthfulness and all that, you still ask yourself, the word is responsibility. How are we responsible to the people if what I am reporting, if the story that I have bumped into is going to ennoble the people? Yes. If it's going to drop the country into more chaos or cause hysteria or cause panic, then am I going to just give some level of information that will guide the public and protect them from what may cause more harm than good? And that's where it is very necessary that we as media people work hand in hand with security. Sometimes there's some kind of suspicion on the side of the two. The media feels that they curtail information because they have something to hide. The security person feels that if too much information is given, it might hamper the process, their process of investigation and all that. But then there must be a meeting point for the good of the people, for the interest of the public.
Okay. If you're just joining us, we are taking a look at the media and national security. And in the course of sustaining this conversation, we shall be doing 4 reports. Today we shall be going to Lagos, Owerri, Port Harcourt, and Uyo. Let's continue. Back to Bayo Atoyebi. I'm happy we are trying to set the tone, and we're already heading somewhere with this discuss tonight. Follow up to what I asked Ed about differently now, sir. The media should rise to their expectation and use their power judiciously, or else national security will continue to be threatened. I'm coming from the angle of there seems to be a very slim line of divide. National interest overriding public interest. What do you make of it? Is it possible in the course of trying to practice or report or do stories tied to overriding national interest, acupuncture or injure national interest, or overriding public interest, acupuncture or injure national interest?
There are instances where in trying to report, if care is not taken, national interest or national security interest could be injured. This is especially in situations of conflict. I can give 2 specific examples. For instance, there was some time ago, about 3 months ago, when the insurgency, our military were trying to curb the excesses of the insurgency that were reoccurring from the Lake Chad Basin. There was a report by the newspaper medium that claimed that the military had been disseminated in a part of Borno State. The military came to deny that that was not the situation. The reporter went back to report and reveal the detailed initiative of the military to counter the initiative of the insurgents. That is dangerous because he was trying to justify that his first report was true, and because it was denied, he was trying to reveal the military strategy to counter what was happened. That's made him stray into security field, and he incurred the wrath of the military. Another one happened just about 2 weeks ago. The Nigerian Air Force carried out strategic operations in a village in Zamfara. That village, I think, is Sumudu village also. The operation, unfortunately, there was collateral damage, but about 120 bandits were decimated because the bandits had, the reporter himself reported that the bandits had held the village to ransom. Nobody could go in, nobody could go out. So the Air Force had no alternative but to go there. They were able to succeed in decimating many of the bandits. But unfortunately, a woman and her 4 children were killed. Another elderly woman was injured. But the perspective the reporter took in reporting the story was to say that a woman and her 4 children has been killed by the Nigerian Air Force operation in Zamfara, and added that another elderly woman has been injured. Perhaps that is human interest story, okay, but that was unfortunate collateral damage that had happened in the operation. And at the end of the story, he now said about 120 bandits had been neutralized in the operation. This kind of reportage puts members of the security and members of the media at conflict ends. Because if you see the development about the crisis that we are faced in our nation today, that of banditry, that of insurgency, the atmosphere is such that these days you now have to read 1, 2, or 3 newspapers before you get a clear picture of what is happening. Why? Because members of the public now are very discerning and very cautious not to believe whole lie and sinker whatever they read in the media. And when such development comes, it means the media itself, its integrity itself, is being called to question. And that is why we as professional media must always stay back and watch the way we report in conflict situations. When we tend to give prominence to the successes of the insurgents, the successes of the banditry, it goes a long way to undermine the morale of our military who are putting their lives online to fight for you and I to defend us against these criminals. But the picture you get is that it is hooray for the criminals and sorry for the professional security men who have had to put their lives online to defend you and I. But the danger here is this: unless we are careful and do not throw caution to the wind, the crisis is that we embolden the criminals and succeed in discouraging the armed forces and the security men who are fighting the war on our behalf. We cannot run away from the fact that if criminality has got to the extent that criminals can shoot down an Alpha jet, it shows that our nation is at war. And when our nation is at war, the media and the security must all work in consonance with one another to ensure that we overcome this enemy, criminals who want to take our nation down the line of a precipice. So that is where we have a problem. Members of the armed forces are worried. Only 2 days ago, there was an association that called themselves Mothers of Users. They said that they are concerned because their husbands, their brothers who are serving in the military are laying down their life. But the way the media are reporting it, they tend to glorify the activities of criminals and tend to kind of humiliate persons who are putting their life in line to defend our nation. They were seriously lamenting that many of their husbands have been killed and many of their children have become orphans because they have become victims in the ongoing war against insurgency, banditry, and kidnapping. And so they tend to put the blame at the doorstep of the media, that the media must be circumspect about what they report and stopping in glorifying the activities of the criminals and rather supporting our members of armed forces who are fighting to protect us from these people taking over our land. Those are the areas whereby I think our colleagues will need to be very cautious. There's no gainsaying the fact that the nation is at war. And when the nation is at war, all hands, as it is often said, must be on deck to make sure that we retrieve our nation, our public interest, our national security, and so that even the journalist himself will have a free and safe atmosphere to operate.
Too much to be. And to Chris. Chris, well, you are the president of NUJ with emphasis, that's already known, and sometimes we hear the militaries or the armed forces or the security architecture say the Nigerian security architecture is learning a new warfare, which is the asymmetrical warfare, and they have been going through a series of trainings. There came a time we used to hear so much about bomb blasts, assassinations, banditry, all that in other climes, but it's right here with us. Since the beginning of this and now, are we really trained as journalists? When you talk about the media, we need to put the line of the dividing line here. The journalists in the media house and the media worker. The journalists now, are we really equipped capacity-wise to handle reportage the way it is now in Nigeria compared to what it was before?
Thank you. You know, talking about the issue you raised, such issue of, that have to do with suicide bombing and all that. Before now, we used to hear about them in other parts of the world. We never knew that they were going to come here and live with us at a point in our history. But clearly, they are here. We now talk about banditry, we talk about insurgency, terrorism, kidnapping, kidnap for ransom, abduction, and all that. We now have them living with us. It therefore becomes imperative also that we must prepare people, not just journalists, but those in the security agencies too. When you talk about training and retraining, these are very, very critical, because if we must catch up with the developing trends in crimes and criminalities, we must also prepare ourselves. And that's why the issue of training and retraining, you know, becomes very, very important. I would always make reference to this each time I talk about this. If somebody is thirsty and he drinks from a pool of water that is stagnant, and another person is thirsty and drinks from water that is running in the drainage or in the gutter, it is still dirty water. Chances are that the person that drank from the pool of stagnant water would die faster, you know, than the other one, because that is a stagnant water. So a media professional, a journalist, or a security operative that is stagnant is poison to the society. And that's why it becomes very, very important that we must expose ourselves to constant training, capacity building, you know, from time to time. So the question is, are we ready? I can tell you that we have journalists as a union. We have been taking that very seriously, the issue of training, to prepare ourselves. But it's also very important that looking at these new trends in crime, in the state of insecurity and all that, media platforms should also ensure that people you send to such crisis areas are professionals with experience. Because in such situation, experience counts. Somebody that has garnered experience based on years of practice, areas of practice, has traveled wide and all that, would approach issues differently than that person that is just a greenhorn who just came out from school and you send the person to a crisis area. The person comes with a different kind of report because that is the way he sees it, you know. So it's important that we must at all times ensure that experienced hands handle some of these critical issues. Now, Chief Bayo was talking about giving us stories about, two stories actually. I also recall that at a point, there was this newspaper house that came up with a report about military movement. That was the military, they had designed or planned a movement to somewhere within Borno or Northeast. And somehow they confided in a particular journalist that works with a particular media house I don't need to name here. And by next morning, those things were already in the public glare. And when we do such things, yes, the journalists probably will see that I have done a great job, but you have endangered the lives of those security operatives, the soldiers, the policemen, the DSS, whoever that is involved in that movement. Because one thing we must bear in mind is that bandits, insurgents, terrorists, they thrive in publicity. So any form of publicity you give out there, they celebrate it because you are indirectly celebrating what they are doing. So as a professional, you must ensure that in trying to live up to the billing, you know, the responsibility of informing the people, you don't also indirectly harm the people. You know, so talking about national interest, public interest, security. What is national interest? Something that benefits the majority of the people. That's national interest. What benefits the people? You know? So, why we try to do that? Yes, you may have come with a report that you think is interesting. By the time you churn it out, you are going to win an award. What if you succeed in doing that report, win an award, come back, and there's no country again? You are going to disappear, you know? So, it's important that in trying to, you know, churn out reports, inform the people, educate the people, we must bear in mind that there is no other country that we can call our own. We are all citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And if we continue to harm this country, I can tell you something, if you talk about crime, it's not more prevalent here in Nigeria. If you go to some other parts of the world, go to the United States, for instance, the level of crimes and criminalities that go on there, you cannot compare with what we have here. But sometimes we tend to blow things out of proportion. And that's why, as a union, as the Nigerian Press Organization, we are coming up with strategies, devising, you know, ideas on how to check activities of some people, some infiltrators in the media practice, because we have a good chunk of people who don't even understand what it means to manage information. They don't know what information management is all about. Once you have an Android phone, a smart, or in some cases not too smartphones, you know, you churn out things that come. They call themselves citizen journalists, you know, but indirectly they are harming this country. They are harming the people. They are you know, creating state of anarchy in the system indirectly. And that's why it becomes important that we must come up with the best possible strategy of ensuring that we weed out some of these people. Much as we are not going to harm free speech, we are not going to gag the press, there must be freedom of information. The people's right to know must not be caged. The people's right to know must not be put in a pigeonhole. We must guarantee that. But while we do that, the fact that we shouldn't harm the country must be uppermost in our minds.
President, from what the President just interrogated, it is very clear that part of the problem, one of the major problems, is about those who have no business practicing journalism, those who have no business being in the media, but they are all over the place. How do we handle this?
Yes, you know, I said that earlier in my opening remarks.
Absolutely, yes.
That we have people who claim to be journalists, and they are in large numbers, and they are really not journalists. Just feel, especially now that we have a high level of unemployment, anybody can decide to call himself a journalist, and then publish things that are not verifiable. Sometimes people pick newspaper and look at the back and check their email address, and if he discovers that there is no correspondent in this state, he will say that he is the correspondent of the state and begin to send stories. And that's why I would like to call on editors to be cautious. If you don't have a reporter in a particular state, officially you are a reporter, and somebody files in a story from a particular state and a crisis situation, not even crisis situation, because if you allow him to do the job, he will do the job and you accept him before you realize he puts you in trouble. So I think people should, no matter how we want to sell our papers, no matter how the economic advantage of getting the business, there is need for you to say, okay, we have people that we have sent to the field. In the event of any crisis, we stand by our story. So, but if you don't do that, and just any email, you open it and you see a story, and then it is just written and it's not good. And again, there's a practice. I have been a journalist for some time before I came into the National Assembly. I was a chief press secretary of former Governor Boni Haruna in my state. I was a spokesperson of the 8th Assembly, so I know this job very well. I know that sometimes...
But you're not retired yet.
Yeah, yes, when I would still go back, by the grace of God. You see, sometimes there's even laziness in the reporting. We have very brilliant reporters, we have very strong reporters, but sometimes you will take a newspapers, take 3 or 4 newspapers from a particular state. You will see the intro will be different, but almost all the stories are the same. Like A copy from B, B copy from C, D copy from... And so, you know, sometimes when we go to a coverage, please, I will not be there. So please, can you, when you finish the story, can you send it to my email box? I will rewrite the story and send it. Now, I think editors should not allow that, because we are in a critical period that if you take these things for granted and somebody mischievously send a story and an innocent reporter embellish the story and send it and it becomes a headline, then it becomes a court matter. So that is one. Number 2, I wanted to go back to the issue of the fact that terrorists or bandits, terrorists specifically, they take advantage of media. They like to be reported. So we should be also cautious, because let us not expand their scope to where they are even not there. But by the time you take your paper and you begin to give them some kind of advantage in the coverage, and then they look down upon state actors, then there is a problem. So we should be in a position to know how to report and where to report. And I am happy that the NTA president said they take training very seriously. As chairman House Committee on Army, we have been having a very good relationship with one particular civil society organization. We have been together for the past 6 years. I even suggested that, look, the problem of insecurity is not about the security operators alone. It is a multifaceted matter that myself, yourself, and the market woman will be on board so that we can solve the problem. So why can't we train our media or defense correspondents or our media operators in the area of security? And they did that. So that helped a lot. So my last take on this matter is that I'm always worried with the use of certain cliches in the media. Bandit, terrorism, cattle rustling, header farmer crisis. Let us use these words appropriately. And I give an example. Check the dictionary definition of a bandit. A bandit is ordinarily a robber or a thief, you understand, who uses an arm in an isolated place. But a terrorist is one or person or group of persons who take advantage, who intimidate on civilian populations, create so much harm. So you can see, let us be able to know, when you are doing this reporting, is this man a local thief that we know as a bandit? Or, because even the word bandit comes from an Italian word, bandito, meaning ban. So let us be very careful. Is this one a bandit? Is it a castle lustra? Is it a pipeline vandal? So let us so that, because it will give us in government how to handle the matter. If I take off a paper and I read that this is a bandit, I have an imagination of how I can handle a bandit. If you ask me as a legislator to appropriate funds to handle banditry, I know the kind of funds by the usage of the word bandit. But when you say it is terrorist, I know the level at which it has also risen. I know how I can appropriate funds for this. So I think these are things that we should choose to do. And I think there are very good people that are doing the reporting, but we should do more.
Okay, thanks. Franca, if you check critically, one problem we have is the platform called the social media, the new media. And most often, if you check it, the new media, well, where do we class it now? But they exist. Regulation. I know very well that the National Broadcasting Act, Cap 2, is it Cap 11, laws of the Federation of 2004, says, and currently all social media platforms and online broadcasting services providers in Nigeria to apply for broadcast license. Where are we with this? I believe this could help maybe tone down the pressure on the NG president.
Yes, the provisions of the Nigeria Broadcasting Act, Section 2B, actually provides that the National Broadcasting Commission shall regulate broadcasting on any platform within the country. And if you look at that by extension...
The new media inclusive?
The new media inclusive, social media. Once it's broadcasting content, on any platform in Nigeria, it's under the purview of the NBC. And that's why we extended that to the social media, the OTTs and all of them that provide content, as it were. And why is that? Because apart from providing content, broadcasting content, even the broadcasters themselves find these platforms as useful places to take stories. Because it's a very dynamic industry, and we recognize that the technology is evolving, and then of course technology is also converging.
Okay.
Yes, with convergence, NBC regulation recognizes that there's what is called user-generated content. The president of NUJ talked about that. User-generated content, but the responsibility is on the media owner or the media operator, because if you use content from the social media, you must own it. You must take editorial responsibility for that content, and so the onus is on you to verify, to check the veracity of that content that you have picked, because it's not enough for you to say, oh, I picked it from the social media, or it's not me that put it there. Social media is an open space for everybody, the sane and the insane, the man on the street, the learned and the unlearned. Everybody is a free space. Once you can buy data and you have a phone, you are there, you can put anything there, and anybody who sees it thinks it's a useful information. So if you use any content from the social media, or you use user-generated content, eyewitness account, you must make sure, you must follow up and follow through to make sure that what you are using is verifiable and it is true, because it is on your platform that it is seen. If it's on the social media platform and you look at it there, I have the responsibility to say, oh, I don't trust it completely. It could have been photoshopped or anything. So that is that. We have been talking about media ethics and those who are in the media. It's interesting that while other spheres, other commerce are trying to guide their frontiers by ethics, by controlling who should operate, who should not operate, we have opened our doors wide. It's an all-comer affair. But it is very important that we remember that there are ethics. It's a noble profession. There are ethics guiding our rules. And once we allow others to use the platform or jump on the profession to make a living, earn a living, they must conform. Yeah. They must conform. Broadcasting, for instance, in the days of yore, before you become anything, you go for rudiments. You go to the training school. You start with the basics, the basic studies, the intermediary, and all that. And before you are launched to even allowed to create a program, or before you are launched on live shows. But these days, I can tell you that some youth corps members are allowed on live show. Nobody has tested the responsibility. Nobody has tested whether this person has the calmness of mind, or the maturity to manage information, or to manage what will be thrown at. You have people manning microphone and fighting or practically exchanging words with respondents on the other side. People who take sides when, as an ombudsman, as a journalist, or as a media person, you are meant to be neutral, to present the issue and let your viewers or a listener or the reader make up his mind. I mean, the whole thing has been jumbled. And I think that, like he said, we have to go back to drawing board. Who do we call journalists? If we say that some people are professionals and some people are just passers-by or who are looking for jobs, should we allow the industry to be run or to be ruled or to be identified by this? I want to be careful with the words that I use.
I'm happy you copiously made reference to the president of the NUJ, who is on set with us tonight. Yes. In your operations, do you at any point relate with the NUJ? Because within the broadcast industry, you have professionals, you have journalists who are there, as much as we have those who have no business being there. Do you in any way interface with the NUJ, maybe to cross-fertilize ideas in your operations? Definitely. Okay. We interface with BITS correspondents. We interface with BITS correspondents, and we ensure that people that we invite for events are people who are knowledgeable in that field. But like he said, sometimes when you have this number of people who are recognized in the industry for specific discipline, for people, you have reporters for broadcasting bit, you have reporter for media bit, you have reporter for this, but you have a field of journalists around, and you cannot chase them away, and everybody is free to write. Okay. And then, I mean, there's also a lot of pressure on some of them, because now most media houses use freelancers. They don't want to pay. They don't want to employ. They don't want to have the responsibility to discipline. So they are thrown into the field. They are allowed to go and fish for news. And so because of that, there's a lot of sensationalism of what stories they find there. And when they come over, I'm able to, it's like I have caught one big fish. So you report it there, not caring whether it is come
destroying
to the issue of
us.
Welfare. I believe the NUJ president will handle that. Well, it's time we take some of the reports, but when we return after the break, we shall be looking at the problem of gatekeeping and the ownership syndrome. Let's begin with the reports. Begin with the report from Lagos tonight.
It is a general observation that all media platforms are being awash on a daily basis with negative news depicting violent scenarios that occur in various parts of the country. To this end, experts say that some online sources sometimes become purveyors of fake news as they sacrifice ethical principles of the profession in the quest to become the first to break the news, which often leads to some unverified information in circulation.
There is the need for us to update our codes practically, because whatever we are operating with right now doesn't just cover the space, all right, in the face of what we see with the new media. But even among the traditional media, there is a need for us to retool.
There must be some level of decorum and moderation in our activities on the social media. Now, coming to the traditional media of communication, the reportage of violence does no good to any society. First is the reputation and the image it creates out there for the international community.
With the media dwelling so much on violent scenarios, security and economic analysts say there are likely implications, as there are a strong connection between investors' confidence and day-to-day activities in the nation.
Terrorists, their own objective is to gain publicity. And that's why anytime they do their things, they're either videoing it and then they send it out in the international media or through the social media to gain publicity. And now that is a problem that our own media in the country don't understand.
The clamor for responsible journalism is by no means to restrict the media, but to ensure balance and unbiased reportage for common good and unity of a nation.
That was from Lagos, and we proceed now to report from Owerri, Imo State.
The media is generally seen as a source of information and a means of dissemination of information. The information disseminated is, however, of utmost importance, going by the fact that there are diverse receivers who are at liberty to interpret such information as it suits them. As a major influencer coupled with the liberalization of the conventional and social media, information dissemination has become cheap and almost an all-commerce affair. Privately owned media organizations and open platforms on the social media now offer most people the opportunity to put out their thoughts, but not without its attendant challenges.
What matters in the usage of social media is its control and management. If you control it well, manage it well, and direct it well, it will give you all the benefits accruable from such platforms.
Only last year, some youth were able to mobilize others across the country using the social media to seek reforms in the Nigerian police force through the NSAS protest. While many who participated may not have had clear understanding of the motive, their actions in the protest, which later went sour, were linked to the media. Several hashtags have also emanated, driven by the media, some of which gave rise to violence and loss of lives.
When you liberalize, people have online newspapers, online television, and all that. That is part of the development that we are seeking.
With the Lagos and Owerri report, it's time to take a break. When we return, we sustain the conversation. Stay with us.
The vaccine offers hope for a safe country free of coronavirus. I urge all state governments, traditional and religious leaders to take the lead in the mobilization effort within their environment and spheres of influence. I similarly urge all eligible Nigerians to present themselves and be vaccinated in accordance with the order of priority already mapped out at the various authorized designated centers only.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying tuned, and the focus tonight again is media and national security. And I hear our phone lines are open, and you can also be part of the conversation tonight through our social media handle, Cool, Facebook, and on Instagram. Let's begin this segment with Bayo Atoyebi. I know very well each time a regulator like the NBC speaks, professionals like Bayo, leaders like Chris want to react. Given what Franca said before we went on break, I know Bayo want to react, but in your reaction, don't you think also gatekeeping is a problem in all this, and also the ownership syndrome of media houses also plays a major role in managing media and national security?
Let's look at the media from two perspectives. When I talk about media, I look at those who use the means of conventional media to disseminate news. That is, they use newspapers, radio, television to disseminate news. And they do that because they have professionals who know that news is any information that is factual, that is verifiable, that is truthful. And before any such news is put out in the newspaper, radio, on television, they go through the crucible of news scrutiny, and therefore it is worthy of the public's reading. You don't get that in the social media. The social media is just where people use applications to upload and disseminate anything. And they, unfortunately, many of them there who call themselves citizens journalists think that there is freedom of expression. They are free to take any information, whether factual or not. Some of them even cook it up and send it up on the social media. And they think they are what they call themselves citizen journalists. And that is why we are having many of these problems. As far back as 2011, I recall at the International Press Institute conference in Taiwan, the IPI had warned the world, or the world of journalists, that every journalist must be very careful when it comes to the issues of social media. Yes, social media has crossed the world anywhere, but most it as
there. We'll get back to Bayo as soon as his signals are smoothened by our team of engineers. Well, let me parry that question, but we'll go back to him later on. Gatekeeping and the challenge of ownership. Don't you think it's also a problem?
Very greatly. I think in the journalism profession, gatekeeping is a very serious business. In fact, if you go to a media house, be it electronic or print, these gatekeepers are not just one person. There are a lot of gatekeepers, so that things don't just get from the reporter, it does not just escape the good eye or the scrutiny of professionals. And most of the times we begin to wonder too, that how did this particular story get out of this newspaper? Or how do you allow this media, television station or radio station allow this to go on air? Did somebody not do the right job? It is expected that we should get also people who are very experienced to handle particularly political matters, who are very, very sensitive in nature. Because sometimes it is political issues that gets us in trouble. So we should have a good person who knows how to handle those persons. So it's a very good one. And I want to say that ownership too. Sometimes people allege that look, the owner of this station has this is his objective. He wants things to be done in this manner and not in this manner. So sometimes the particular reporter feels, look, I don't want to do this. This is for the interest of the publisher or the owner of this.
And not overriding public interest.
Not overriding public interest. If something affects his friends, say, look, this is my August, so that's the way he will do the reporting. But I think by and large, we cannot castigate. We know that there are people who have done a good job of it. But just like Madam Alice said, let us not just vote for the sake of employment or because we want to pay little. Let us just put any other person to be a gatekeeper. We need a more experienced person to be a gatekeeper. And anybody who wants to establish a media organization, as I said before, in Section 39 of the Constitution, 1999 Constitution, has the right to do so, so long as it follows the rules. So when you own a medium, don't have a particular interest in say, look, I am doing this for this particular interest, because this interest changes with time. So what happens if the interest you have at the moment changes in the next 5 years? Why will you keep changing your interest? Let's have overall national interest. That would be very, very important.
Okay, let's quickly go back to Bayo. I'll come back to you, Franca, please. The Bayo was already engaging deeply into what he was supposed to sustain. Let's go back to you. Please, can you sustain your conversation, please?
Comparison between the conventional media, that is the newspaper, radio, television, that uses those mediums to disseminate news, information. There you have professionals who know their onions, and they know that news is information that is factual, that is verifiable, and therefore they will not dare to put anything out there which is not truthful, which is not accurate, which is not correct, or which is not verifiable, because it will impinge on their integrity and they will be violating the code of ethics of their profession. But you don't get the same with our brothers and sisters who call themselves social, what do you call them now? Citizens journalists on the social media. People who have access, use social media applications to upload anything on air. People cook up anything and put them on the air. But it has been a challenge that has been there for a long time. I remember specifically in the year 2011 at the International Press Institute in Taiwan, the warning was given to all journalists around the world that yes, social media is pervasive, its rapidity is per second around the world, but you have to use it with circumspect in the sense that most of the information that are there are not verifiable. Many of them are cock and bull stories that cannot be verified. But unfortunately, we have that is what is becoming a dominant scenario in our society now, and people tend to believe what they hear on the social media more than what they hear on the conventional media. They tend to think that the conventional media is hiding the information, not knowing that actually the conventional media is trying to use the precepts of verifiability to ensure that the information that gets to them is accurate. So we need to be very careful about our usage and abuse of the social media. The social media itself is a very wonderful development that digitization has brought to the world. But the uses that people are putting it to is beginning to have serious negative consequences. It is only on the social media that gory pictures are put out there, so much so that the sensibilities of our persons, of citizens, are gradually being numbed. Every day you hear killings and see people slaughtered brutally. It is gradually numbing the sensibilities of our people, so much so that when you hear somebody killed, you don't seem to worry, it's just as if it's another person. That is not good for society. We need to be very careful the extent to which the media, and I think I must commend the National Broadcasting Commission, because from the outset, because the social media was the ambit of the NCC, Internet, Nigeria Communication Commission, and so when they were using it to broadcast content, NBC was not concerned. But now that NBC has taken it upon itself to regulate anything that is broadcast, either on the conventional terrestrial radio, television, or the internet, we will begin to see some reasonableness and some sense of professionalism being put into it. And we hope that will go a long way to eliminate the excesses we are seeing that is creating serious danger in our society.
Thank you so much. Mr. President of the NUJ, I remember very well at the beginning I attempted to define what good journalism should be. And most times it is said too much of media at times appears bad, and too little also as a problem. At times you're bothered managing news, gatekeeping. You find all sorts of press releases coming in from the security space. Press release ordinarily you should expect should be held, not made public. It is on record that it was when Osama bin Laden was murdered that the public got to know. Nobody knew the operational plan, but it appears back home, every move, every inch of the way, we get press releases from the media, from the security outfits, be they the armed forces, paramilitary, police, and what have you. Is there any way you're planning an interface with the security architecture in Nigeria, maybe to interface with them on what should be made public and what should not be made public?
Well, before I go to that, I want to quickly react to the views expressed by Mrs. Franca from the NBC. You actually asked her a question that borders on interface. Are you having any form of interface with the NUJ? And of course, her answer was clearly in the negative, because even though she didn't say no, she tried to play around it. They are meeting with beat associations, apparently people that are with them in NBC and all that. Well, it is sad that NBC, being a very big institution or organization, has no form of relationship with the Nigerian Press Organization. And when you talk about Nigerian Press Organization, you're talking about NUJ, which is a trade union, which is a professional body, You're talking about Nigerian Guild of Editors. You're talking about the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria. NBC has no form of relationship, and that's why oftentimes when they come up with directives, you know, they seem to be instilling fear in broadcast stations that today there are, in fact, they don't even know what to do again. If you want to go there, they would read the Riot Act. You know, this is from NBC, that is from NBC. Whereas in a sane clime, before such a regulator comes up with array of directives, you would have substantially engaged with the stakeholders. You sit down with them. Some of the views she has expressed here, those are views that should be expressed when you have such interface. Okay, look at what we want to do. This thing that is happening this way does not seem to be good for the broadcast industry. We need to come up with reviews and what have you. That way, we'll be on the same page. It makes it a lot easier. But when the regulator churns out directives, it simply means there is more to it than meets the eye. It means there is something that is somebody is hiding somewhere. So I want to believe that this engagement tonight is another opportunity that Mrs. Franca and her team must take advantage of it, and so that going forward, there will be more interface, there will be more engagement. That way it makes our relationship more seamless, so that when you come up with stuffs, we will be there to also give you the necessary, backup. Well, is there any plan to interface with the security? It is work in progress. I recall we've been able to interface with the police, the military, at different fora. But it's something that shouldn't be one-off thing. It's something that is continuous, because each time you look at it, all these crimes and all whatnot are coming out there. You made reference to what happened in the Situation Room prior to when Osama bin Laden was killed. But I must tell you that in that Situation Room where we had President Barack Obama, you had the Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, there were some journalists that were equally there with them, very senior journalists, that were there with them. You must have to take the journalists into confidence. Don't alienate him. If they hadn't taken them into confidence, they probably would have exposed the plan. So when you take them into confidence, make available such information so that they will be aware and they will manage it. But when you don't arm them with those information, they begin to speculate. And when you speculate, it's not going to benefit anybody. And that's the truth. The fact that we have social media, and I'm glad that our veteran that is here has been able to, distinguish between conventional media and the social media. Once what you are churning out is not factual, once what you are churning out is not verifiable, it does not represent the truth, that is not the media. That is not good journalism. Whatever that is out there must have gone through the acid tests so that it will represent the truth. He just told us that it's cock and bull. For me, most of the things you read on the social media, I can tell you over 85% of them don't represent truth. And that's a fact. And it seems that even our political actors seem to have found a way of circumventing due process. They are so at home with some of these social media influencers, because when you go to somebody's, for instance, Instagram handle, the person, up to 2 million people are following him, the politician feels more comfortable that if this person puts out this thing for me, 2 million people that are following him will read it instantly. Why do I need to waste time going to the conventional media? So politicians are themselves helping to fuel the activities of social media influencers, and it is harming our system. It's just that sometimes when it doesn't favor them, then they come and cry wolf. But most times when it favors them, they relax. The social media is doing well. So it is something that we must all come to terms with, have that understanding that we must find ways of controlling the operators of this social media, so that we don't harm the system that we have.
Thank you so much. Franca, I'm sure you heard what Mr. President said. Without throwing tantrums, I'm sure he slanted it somewhere. You want to react to that?
Yes, I got the message loud and clear, but I don't think it is quite fair that the NUJ president should say that we do not engage the NUJ. I mean, it's not too correct.
But the steps you're taking, are they meant to gag the media or meant to regulate?
The letter he refers to as a directive was actually a generic letter of caution. A letter of caution in the direction of all that we have discussed here, in the direction of not glamorizing the activities of bandits and terrorists over the efforts being made by our security agents for the good of the people. I mean, that was basically the intention of that letter. And the fact that we have noted that most of the pictures that come to us on the screens of television are beginning to put Nigerians in hysteria, panic. And we say that the veteran talked about not putting vulgar, gory pictures out there. Some of them are too gory in the bid to try to bring the story across to the people the way it is. You begin to cause harm. I mean, sometimes we worry about the mental equilibrium of most Nigerians, especially young people. Many people don't watch our television stations anymore because they are afraid. We receive complaints on the info@nbc.gov channel, and we react to these complaints because it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to take what they say back to our constituency, to use my august language here. So it's not too correct to say we don't. We are a very press-friendly organization, probably engaging more. Now that you have said it, we will engage you, Mr. Isig specifically. Okay. There's another thing that you talked about. You talked about gatekeeping.
Gatekeeping, absolutely.
Very important.
Yep.
Yes, gatekeeping. What's happening now is that there are two organizations that are barred from obtaining broadcast license, for instance, as the law provides: the religious organization and the political organization. But when you have politicians becoming owners of broadcasting stations, they may not be the ones running it, but they are the owners of this ownership. But there's also a clause in the act that says no, the broadcasting station, no licensee should use the license to the advantage of the for the interest of the owner.
It should be for overriding public interest.
It's for overriding, because the frequency that is given to you is a product of the society, is owned by society. So you are given in trust. So whatever you do on that platform should be for the people. But there's this, everything that we see now negates the straight dealing principle. Okay. In chapter 3 of the code. The straight dealing says every program, the objective of every program must be make evidence at every stage of production and presentation. Okay. So some of the programs that we see are covered, are shielded. There's an inherent interest, either for the interest of the politician who owns the station, for his inherent interest, or for the family interest, or whatever. We will have to uncover on another day. But a lot of things happen that negates the ethics of the profession, because if the broadcaster is there and is an unbiased person and reports as he should be, unbiased, not leaning towards any, then that is what the profession says of us. But when owners begin to dictate the tune, then you have all sorts of colorations in messages that we get from the media. I'm using broadcasting as an example because I'm particularly comfortable in that, guys. I don't want to devil into things that I don't know. Even in adverts, for instance, because of the bid to make money, people, the quality control units no longer look at adverts. They don't preview or pre-listen before these things come to you. And so you have a lot of things that are not allowed ethically that are now put there. And when NBC says, no, this is not allowed and you are sanctioned, then NBC gags the press. But this, the ethics of broadcasting, is global best practices, domesticated in Nigeria. Everywhere you go, there's ethics in broadcasting.
Okay.
So it's not particularly strange to us in that field. So why is it so difficult for us to gatekeep, to do our own thing, to do our own quality control, to do our own cleaning up before these things come out?
Okay. When we come back after the report, beginning with Honorable Lamdas, let's take the report from Port Harcourt.
Nigeria is faced with myriads of security challenges ranging from terrorism and banditry, kidnappings, secessionist agitations, and armed robbery, among others. However, the role of the media and the importance of information management in reporting these issues for national security is very paramount. With more sources of information, including news stations, online platforms, and websites rolling out 24 hours information, the need for the media and security agencies to build enduring partnership and consensus to address new realities of reporting in the interest of national security becomes important.
There are certain things you need to take into consideration. One, the unity of the country, the protection of the citizenry.
Always downsize their way of reporting so that it does not cause negative harm to us.
The Nigerian media has been accused of contributing to worsening the state of insecurity and conflicts in Nigeria due to what has been termed in many quarters as unpatriotic reportage, primarily aimed at maximizing profit and increasing audience base. Many believe this contributes negatively to increasing crises and conflicts, which in turn threaten national security.
But unfortunately, because of this aggression of trying to outsmart one another, the media fuel insecurity in the country.
Where it become a kind of an imbalance to the national security, the media can play it down.
It is the view of many that unless the media desists from fueling insecurity through its reportage and programs, its crucial role as watchdog of the society will be defeated and national security will be undermined, threatened, and in extreme cases breached.
Last report tonight coming from Uyo, Akwa Ibom State.
The lingering security challenges in Nigeria despite government efforts is no more news. Investigations have shown that insecurity has caused over 70,000 deaths in the country between 2012 and 2020, with loss of lives and property. Some cases of insecurity include cultism, terrorism, kidnapping, bandits, among others. While insecurity are more tense in some states, in others they are less through government proactiveness, resulting in few cases recorded, which led to loss of lives and property with negative effects on national development.
We had pockets of insecurity in Sinodom and in the local government area. Those activities were immediately nipped in the bud and those perpetrators were arrested.
In the last 2 months, I guess, we've had issues that had to do with a group of brigands who come in here, try to set police stations ablaze and kill a number of people, including some police officers. So we've not really had issues of insecurity in this part of the country.
Taking cognizance that security is the responsibility of everyone, including the media, the need for the media to rise up to the critical role as agents of socialization and agenda setting becomes imperative in the fight against insecurity.
The psychology of criminality is something that media practitioners must study to understand, so that we do not at the end play into the hands of the criminals by becoming their publicity apparatus.
The media should be able to set agenda that will give hope to the masses. The media should be able to set agenda
that will give government the push to address the issues. And the media should also be able to set agenda that will make the society have confidence in the government.
With the complex nature of insecurity in Nigeria, it is therefore pertinent that the media rise up to the role of patriotic reportage that can help subdue and defeat insecurity, since no meaningful development can thrive in an insecure environment.
The report from Uyo is the last report tonight on the program. Back to the conversation, and let's go quickly to Bayo Atoyebi. Well, I know very well that this popular parlance in news gathering where they will say when a dog bites a man, it is very normal, but when the man bites the dog, it becomes a problem. But let me see this other way. Naturally, the dog wags its tail, but where the media towards national security turns out to make it look as though the tail wags the dog, would that suffice? What's the way forward?
The danger, because the criminals themselves do not have elaborate activities, but they tend to do a few little activities, and they depend on the media to expand their activity. Most often than not, you have the criminals living in the media more than on the ground. So it's the criminals live a larger than life, and the media is the one that helps sustain them. If we go back to United Kingdom, in the days of the Irish Republican Army, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher stood in the House of Parliament and called that publicity should not be given to IRA in the United Kingdom. It was debated in the Parliament, and it came to pass that throughout the time until there was the Good Friday's Accord, IRA could not be reported in the British media, because it said that when you give them publicity, you are actually you are providing them the oxygen of survival. And that went a long way in helping fighting it. Here we are, until of recent that has stopped, in the war against insurgency. We have video deployed from the insurgents to various media houses, giving publicity, larger than life publicity to the insurgents. And that was how they lived a larger than life situation. But thank God, our military have been able to overcome them substantially. In the last 2.5 months, we have had very little problems with the insurgents in the northeast, especially since the advent of the reported death of Shekar. But what is coming on with banditry now is that there is now an element of religiosity, ethnicity being introduced into the war of banditry and kidnapping that is going on. Those are the nuances that tend to let this criminality continue to go on for a long time. Criminality does not have religion. Criminality does not have an ethnic group. A criminal is a criminal. And so if we all agree, whether security or the media, that a criminal is a criminal, the job will be easily done. In the sense that the media must be able to help, to stick to facts are sacred and comments are free. These days, you have very many media running commentary in the place of facts. They are expressing the opinion on issues of security based on religion, based on ethnicity, and they invariably are endangering the war against these criminalities in the nation. Those are the facts that you saw. Even the report from Uyo that we just saw now, it was giving an indication of that. It is the media, the extent to which they give publicity to this criminality that tend to make them larger than life and then succeed in creating an atmosphere of fear for our people. There is an ambassador of Korea to Nigeria. He just visited Rivers, Port Harcourt, just this week. And he was telling Governor Nyesom Wike that as far as he's concerned, he's bringing people from North Korea to come and invest in Nigeria. The dangers about criminality and danger of Nigeria not being safe has been highly exaggerated. And he thinks that he can bring his people here to come and invest. We do a lot of good. Yes, we have problems. There's no doubt about that. Like the president of the NUG said, the data of criminality in New York in one single day is more than the number of criminality we have in the whole of Nigeria in any single day. Yet, there's no American media that will publish and tell you that America is in a state of anomie.
Thank you so much. And back to Chris. Chris, most times we say we don't envy you being the president of the NUJ in an era where social media really thrives. We want to ask you, how do you cope with them within the ambit of checkmating sensationalism, fake news, hate speech? And I clearly say it, I don't know how you handle this. Fake news happens or succeeds. Hate speech succeeds. Sensationalism succeeds because someone wants it to happen and someone enables it to happen. So within this ambit, what are your strategies? What are you doing to surmount this?
The one thing is clear. Social media platforms have come to stay. And we have to also come up with strategies that we can use to, stay afloat. Because if you move with the speed they are moving, then you are going to make mistakes. No matter how they tend to, it's like this saying that no matter how far falsehood that had traveled, at any point in time when truth wakes up, it will overtake falsehood. So we must, at the same time, if not being so complacent, relying on this statement, because by the time falsehood is repeatedly told and without anything, countering it, then the public will now begin to believe falsehood to be the truth. So that's why, as media professionals, we must, at the same time, try to catch up with the realities on ground now. The fact remains that if you look at most, if not all, conventional media platforms, they have social media presence. Initially, we are not so keen, but now it has become absolutely necessary for us to be there, because you cannot fight them without being on that space. And that's why, as we speak, every media house has presence on Facebook, on Instagram, until Twitter was suspended, on Twitter, on WhatsApp, across social media platforms. That way, when these social media influencers try to come up with their falsehood, you bring the truth. You bring what is fact. You bring what represents what is verifiable and put it there so that all of them will compete on that space. You cannot ignore what happens there, because most of our young people are active on social media. Like the NBC director of broadcast monitoring said, most of our people are on social media. They are active there. They no longer watch the television. They no longer listen to radio. Most of them don't read newspapers. Every day on the road, just stop, do random sampling. You see young people with their phones. They are either pressing it and they are WhatsApping, or they are Facebooking, or they are on Instagram. They are not reading any of the major newspapers. And that is why it becomes important that the major media platforms show, active presence. And I'm so happy with that. I recall during last season's Big Brother Niger program, I was monitoring something. Immediately, a particular housemate was evicted. A major newspaper in this country immediately, at the speed of light, already published it. I said, this is beautiful. Even before the social media influencers were able to sit down and write, that newspaper had come up with it. So we must get people that are active, internet savvy, and ready to catch up, and not the era of antiquated kind of journalism is gone. today, if you are not active, if you are not ICT compliant, that means you would have to take the back seat, because the way you did it in 1920 is no longer the way it is done now. And at the same time, I want to also appeal to those in NBC. Let them come to terms with this reality. You know, yes, you may have done it in 1970. The era that we have now, the young people we have now, don't want to listen to that your story of 1820. They are talking about 2021. And we must have to come up with strategies. Each time you come up with one directive or the other, they are disturbed. And when I talked about interfacing or engaging with the union, it does not mean engaging with Chris Isiguzo. You know, when you engage with beat associations, we don't recognize them. I must make it very clear. You know, if you want issues, critical issues, policies discussed, you meet with leadership. You sit down with the leadership of the union, of the Nigerian Press Organization, Guild of Editors, NTA. We sit and analyze it. It goes beyond addressing press conferences, press briefings, issuing press statements. Some of these things that border on policies are things you sit down with leaderships of these organizations and say, because we are the stakeholders, just like the lawmaker that is with us on this program. He's got constituents. Before he goes to National Assembly to advance any particular issue, he organizes what is called town hall meeting with his constituents. The NBC, National Broadcasting Commission, we are your constituents. The media stakeholders are your constituents. And you cannot repeatedly be going out to churn out directives without consulting, interfacing with your constituents. That's exactly what happened with the recently, the planned amendment bill of the Nigerian Press Council. We said, no, it's not like we're afraid of regulation. We are not afraid of being regulated, no. But what we said is that let us operate on the same pedestal. Let's operate on the same page. In other developed climes, professionals regulate themselves. Even as close as Ghana, that is here. They have their own act. They regulate themselves. So we have not said, okay, we don't want to be regulated. But let us be on the same page. Government will be part of it. Professionals will be part of it, so that there won't be that mutual suspicion existing between us. That's exactly what we are saying. So when we say interface, engagement, it means let us sit down and talk. By the time we are on the same page, you can get out your statement. All you will be getting is AUJ will endorse your statement. Guild of Editors will issue statement endorsing what you have said. The MPAN will issue a statement. But when you issue statement and these organizations come out to say, no, we don't agree, you have succeeded in issuing nothing, because it cannot work.
Thank you so much. Quickly, let's go to Honorable Namdas. I'm sure you want to put a pinch to what the NGO president said, but in doing this, ex-situ factors, the media largely should be a contributor to state building.
Yes, I have had these very nice discussions. I want to add that, you see, we need to, no matter how, particularly in the social media that he has said has come to stay, and it's true, the social media has come to stay. But I feel that, like me personally, any breaking news, if I don't see it in a traditional media, I don't even believe the news at all. So I think there is need to up the game of professional journalists, so that Nigerians should have confidence in the traditional media. So that if we have confidence, we will always wait to see what the traditional media have said on a particular matter before we can even start saying, it's okay, I saw NTA has carried it, that must be true. Oh no, Daily Trust has carried it, that must be true. No, I did that radio station. So since they've taken that news, then it must be true. So you can have that when we too are doing the right thing, by doing thorough professional reportage, factual reportage, accuracy, and balanced story. Once that is done and is exhibited, but if you find a traditional media that you are supposed to rely on, only to do a story in the morning and retract in the afternoon, then there will be less confidence. So we should do more of that, so that Nigeria should have more confidence in that. And regarding the social media still, you see, even in National Assembly, any attempt for us to look at to regulate even the media, people about the social media, I think Nigerians will always not allow us to say a word. We feel that we have benefited from the social media. Now we want to regulate it, or we have to stampede on it. That is not true. And as I still say, I chair committee on army. So you can see there are very sensitive issues, videos that have been posted regarding the members of the armed forces who have laid their lives for us. And the way you do the thing, it irritates. They have families. They come from families, they have parents, they have children, they have what have you. So if you expose certain things, the people at home cannot sleep. So it will affect them. So since people are there, there are things we can allow to go on social media. There are things we cannot allow to go on social media. So we have to find a way. But I always say, let us have the collective view of Nigerians. What can they say? How do we go about it together? So it's not seen from the perspective of a lawmaker or a politician. What is the perspective of the Nigerian? How do you want us to live this 100% like this? Because the problem with the social media is that if something was reported 2 days ago, if you like it now, it can come back as a fresh issue. Something you have forgotten about, you've seen the videos 1 year ago. Some people will take advantage of that and then begin to recirculate it, and then you begin to cause tension. So I think these are some of the issues. But largely for the media and national security, I will always advise, and I've been talking to my constituents in terms of the people that oversight, that there is need to carry journalists along sometimes in this war. When you go with them, we have seen on international basis where journalists wear the vest and they go to cover serious war. So when they see it literally, they can always report it accurately. And I remember in the times of Buratai too, there was a time so many journalists were invited, they went together to Maiduguri and they saw it for themselves. So if that can be sustained, and I think journalists will report issues, conflict situation very clearly, and it will help. But I know there is always suspicion at the moment, but we can do more in this regard.
But just to clear the case, I know you're not the chairman of the House Committee on Information,
yes.
But is it true that there's a ploy by you guys to gag the media?
I am hearing this.
Just asking you.
No, it's not. It's not true. It's not true. You see, that this press council, even the NUJ president spoke about it. It's at the level of public hearing, and I will not divulge what have already not been finished yet. But I can tell you that we are collecting views of experts, people like you, Bayo, who is also here, was there at the public hearing. I saw him, and he spoke there too. So by the time we come, we cannot. I told you that I'm a member of the media. I am a beneficiary of that system. I should not be part of a system that can guard the media.
Okay, thank you so much. Frank, in all you're doing, do you experience challenges at all?
Of course, a lot of challenges. One of the basic challenges is when there's a misconception or misconstrued. Sometimes we are viewed with suspicion. I mean, going back to the president of the NUJ.
I thought you have resolved this already.
No. I want to, because it's a public, this is a public domain, and I think we should just put it out there clear. We have publics, and the first public of the NBC are the licensees, people who are licensed to operate broadcasting stations. Another of our publics are the journalists, and just like that in different categories. And then even the station managers, that is the GMs of stations, they may not be the licenses, but they are the operatives in the field. And sometimes in our regulatory procedure, when we see there's something that is generic, a problem that is generic going on every station, we write letters of caution, letters of warning, as the case may be, to these GMs to say, the way you are operating, there's something with it. That's the kind of letter that was discussed on that platform. If it was a press release, it would have been a free story, or some of your reporter would have come to us to interview the big man, the DG. But this particular one was a letter of caution that went to stations. One person mischievously put it on the social media, the same social media again, and it became a topic for public discourse. And unfortunately, the broadcasters themselves did not discuss the issues raised in the letter. We had people in the print, lawyers and all of them coming to give views about words used like glamorization, we have talked about it, we have seen why it is not necessary, why it's very, we must be careful the way we carry some of these stories and all that. So let's leave that to rest. Journalists are our publics, and we cherish them. We know that we need them to succeed in this job. So yes, talking about nation building, I mean, encountering challenges. Yes, we encounter challenges. I said before that sometimes some programs, you see it as probably a public enlightenment program, but it is quoted, and it turns out to be one politician trying to sell himself, or some hate. Some time ago, if you remember,
or some businessmen.
Yeah, some time ago we had cases of sponsored programs that were coming out, churned out, and they were in intense hate, packaged as sponsored programs. So as it starts, you don't know what it is intended to mean, but it ends up destroying or polarizing the society. So those are the challenges that we face. And when we don't have the professionals themselves who are sincere in the words, in the job that they do, or the programs that they bring up, and they don't really know the objectives of these programs, why they put it out there, it becomes a challenge for the NBC. Because in trying to regulate that, sometimes you are seen as, oh, you are gagging the press, or you are not allowing freedom to flow. But now we have seen that freedom comes with responsibility. So there's a thin line between freedom and rights, because my right ends where your own starts. And in expressing trying to exercise that right as given to me by the Nigerian Constitution, if I impinge on yours, it's another wahala.
Okay.
So it's
Thank
neither
you so
here or there. So
now quickly, let me take this to Bayo Atebi and Krish. We don't have all the time, but just to say this to the two of you, beginning with Bayo. If we sustain the agenda-setting role of the media, I believe we'll surmount. True or false?
Because without agenda setting is simply planning ahead about what you want to do. If you are not planning ahead, you are only planning to fail. So you were quite right to say so. But the last words to add here is that the military, the security, and the media need one another, because they are all in the service of our fatherland. And if in the other services they are not careful, they will become like the proverbial bird that call for the rain that will beat it.
Thank you. Let me get Chris' perspective.
I agree with you. Agenda setting simply means being proactive, dictating the pace while the society follows. And that is supposed to be the responsibility of the media. But it does appear that quite recently that responsibility has been shifted to some political actors, where we are somewhat complacent and allow the politicians to now set the agenda, and we seem to be following their own agenda. And there's no way a politician will send agenda that will be in the national interest. That's the truth. So it is important that the media regains itself, rediscovers itself, and begin to set appropriate agenda that would help shape the country. It's like as we march towards 2023 and we have the issue of insecurity and what have you, there is need for the media, for all of us in the media, to come together and chart a course for this country.
Thank you so much, Bayo Atebi, former Executive Secretary, Nigeria Press Council, and Chris Izuguzo, President, Nigeria Union of Journalists. It was nice having you on the program, and we enjoyed a lot of thought. Thank you so much. Frank Ayeton, Director of Broadcast Monitoring, NBC. It was nice having you on the program.
Thank you.
I know if I have all the time, Abdulrazak will want to respond, but we don't have the time.
I agree, no problem.
Studio ethics. Thank you so much for being on the program. We enjoyed your thoughts.
No problem. Thank you so much.
That's it on Tuesday Live tonight. We looked at media and national security. On behalf of all of us, don't forget to support the NTA in the fight against rape and rapists to be a star. Bye-bye.